Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful, empowered harmonizers. We are back on track. We are back after some time away. I had some issues, including I broke my wrist. I had some other sort of nerve conditions going on, which are settled. So we're like hot on the path right now. We're back onto the topic at the Peace and Harmony channel, getting into sort of a series, a definitive series. So it'll help you to be more in alignment with your understanding of yourself, other people, and sort of how to identify certain troubling relationships early on. And we're sort of defining what can be problematic in a relationship. What are the traits, qualities, or characteristics, particularly in what, today's healthcare world might call narcissist personality disorder. That's sort of a topic that we get into here to help you kind of understand the dynamics, the movements, what examples look like. A lot of my viewers say, Peace and Harmony, this is awesome, but give us some examples. So I want to sort of really help define into the nitty gritty, deep down, really sort of flesh it out and really look at some of the key characteristics that are sort of really crucial ongoing issues, particularly in definitive of a narcissist. I would say that is the experience or their trait of entitlement. So entitlement, it's different than confidence, having a sense of knowledge, wisdom, that sort of thing. When we really talk about entitlement, really you're looking at someone who kind of feels that the world revolves or should revolve around them. In other words, don't you know who I am? Don't you see, isn't it like readily apparent that I am the authority here? What more do I need to explain? Open the door. Give me the comp. Let me have my cake and eat it too, and have, you pay the bill and make you pleased that you did. And they sort of, with this entitlement, is sort of the equivalent energy is that of exploitation. So when we kind of look at what other people have gone through, it's such a deep sense of disparagement that people feel when they're in relationships with narcissists who have and display this entitlement. And meaning the receiving of this, what can become a deep emotional wound if you've been in close proximity or relationship or imbued in these sort of character traits with individuals who display sort of a haughty or hostility behavior, which might be, sort of bossy, mean, or sort of getting their claws in, their talons in. In other words, some people might say, oh, that's the quality of a leader. But what they're really doing is exploiting others or taking advantage of others. And the receiving people are oftentimes confused into, well, you should be so grateful that you have this pain. You should be so grateful that you have this exposure to me and this wound and this hurt, because I am so great, and you should just be so honored to bask in my presence anyway. That's why you should give me what I'm asking for. That's why you should make the sacrifice and allow me to do these things that hurt or cheat or betray or belittle, criticize, sort of all these sort of other sharp-edged features that come to one of the more harsher, I would say, overarching personality traits of someone who is narcissistic. So it's really important to sort of get into the fine-tooth comb of this. I mean, really down into where it meets the scalp, because when you look at this, oftentimes it has a veneer, or what you might call just an inner shine, or they seem to have a veneer, or what you might consider more of a facade. And so they interact with the world with this facade, this veneer, this false self that they've built up, oftentimes that walks around with entitlement. The minute they step out their front door and their foot hits the pavement, I mean, they're Tarzan, Mighty Hulk, what are some other superheroes that are invincible. Hey, there are some real world superhero people who have done some great things. But just because of certain advantages that they have, good looks, intelligence, money, the ability to throw their weight around, throw their figure around, whatever it is, their hair, their fingernails, their feet, whatever it is that they kind of feel is super amazing, gorgeous, or outstanding. And they want to sort of mold the picture that you have of them rather than you formulating it yourself. So it's a very sort of intertwined, convoluted sort of give and take with an entitlement. In other words, if we look at the exact relationship where the road meets the pavement. No, the road is the pavement. Where the rubber meets the road, where the pavement meets a new road for you. Because where you're going with people of entitlement, you're going to find yourself on the other end, namely that of feeling exploited, ripped open, taken advantage of, given your all, don't know what was wrong with me, what can I learn better? In other words, maybe you've gone through all sorts of self-improvement to try to improve this relationship and better serve them. Do you have, you're serving them, you're shutting down for them. Part of you had to numb out to allow for this sort of behavior, which oftentimes is kind of like, they kind of like to enter in with their own spotlight, as if they're, carrying around their phone with their flashlight on themselves and just like highlighting themselves. They love to be in the spotlight. I know I go to exaggerations, but you know what? It's true. It's just, it shocks me. To be walking and see people, and there's a lot of really nice cars that I see that people are using on the day-to-day, like a Maserati. You're just pulling into a Starbucks with a Maserati. Why would you take that out just to like run errands? I don't know. But these people who are in these massive, expensive cars, they've got, maybe a tablet or a phone, and they're just like running the flow of traffic. The light is green, they're not going, they just sort of swerve lanes. They are acting out of entitlement. They're thinking that that the world should and will always revolve around them, and isn't it obvious? It's just like they have that Maserati ego, but they don't have the accomplishments to oftentimes back it up. Meaning there's not only this exploitation of others, meaning you should be able to do flips, crank out a beef Wellington. You should be able to maybe like throw off your routine for them, forego your own needs in order to, be adequate in the relationship. So there's this sort of taking a deficit, taking a hit for the team experience where you're like, okay, let them always have the driver's seat. The problem with that entitlement, it just sort of, it's this sort of double entendre, if you will. It's just sort of the big bow on top of the cake. It's just like, it's their way of sort of manifesting and displaying their insatiable need for power and control and sort of this attention. They really need it. And to some degree, they're very fragile, and that if they don't get that they become very hostile, angry, questioning, why didn't I get this response? Why didn't, they want as if everybody is just going to jump when they say jump, or laugh, as if what they always say, they always want to get a reaction, meaning and that's exploitative, because if you're always in a reactive mode, you're not in your best self. If someone always, when you are just sort of letting your guard down and just sort of letting it all hang out, maybe that's like at the end of the day, you're in a place where you can relax, and you should be relaxing, and it's appropriate. But there comes an exploitation where the narcissist has a direct disrespect of other people's feelings, otherwise what's called devoid of empathy, which means they don't really, and it's not just like they don't care, it's just like they really don't care about other people. And they might say things, they love their things, or they love their expensive animal, but they don't really have the same connection with people. And they might think that that makes them better than for some reason. And in their mind, in their decision making, in their own justification, they feel that they are. Because of A, B, C, or X, Y, Z. And I mean, you can fill in the blanks because of, and you kind of can know. And even though you're afraid to admit it to yourself, what they really assume is. And so, in other words, they want people, why they, give me examples. Why would they always want people in reactive? Because that way they're guaranteed to run the show. They're not going to have any bark back. They're not going to have to answer any questions. They're not going to have to be accountable and responsible to you in your sheer soul, in your sheer gut, in your real heart, in your real sort of soul community where you truly live and breathe, So these entitled people have a facade, and in this series, I'm going to be bringing back in sort of the whiteboard, because I think maybe if we draw it out, very almost like a diagram. In fact, why don't we do this? If we have some time, which we are making time for, is to understand that there are certain indelible, which means unchanging, characteristics, which means they're strong, they're stubborn. It's going to be, this is, so in other words, like you might feel in your own personal evolution that you develop a soft side. You find that you're not as harsh or judgmental, and you realize that it's okay to slow down, or it's okay to listen, or you're realizing, hey, if you need to do some changes, you take a knee, you get with yourself, and you go, man, I was effed up, or I did some stupid things. That was so juvenile of me. You have like an all out with yourself. You have that emotional come to Jesus, kumbaya. I mean, if you haven't had that, then you need to have that, because that's part of the toil. That will keep you in the struggle. If you haven't taken a knee to yourself and said, oh my God, you really fell into this, and this is how, things kind of happened that weren't good for you. You skinned your knee, you almost broke your shoulder, thank God you missed, you actually are good to be on the other side of this. You missed a bullet, you dodged a bullet, you got out of this one okay. And see, people then tend to because they've already been exploited, they tend to not own any goodness or strength of self, because that has been overlooked and invalidated. And it's really, you're in a narcissist relationship because no matter what, they're not going to care. They're going to have, a lot of people, they say that they're superficial, which means they're all about the looks. They're all about sort of using certain of these, things to their advantage that they feel in their mind justifies it, that no one else should be able to do this, and it gives them exclusive rights to be able to rule the roost. In other words, just being inappropriate, and exploiting others, expecting the world to run, literally circle around them, as if they should expect backstage passes, or they should expect people just to let them in. It's not even opening hours yet, and they're just saying, no, we can't modify our hours for you. This is done on like an electronical system. These doors don't even open until this time, and they're disgusted that you're not doing certain things for them as a service person. So you'll see them maybe really yelling at someone as a cashier, just for no reason. And then oftentimes the blaming, and just really sort of going off, and then it's just, in other words, this person's in their own bubble, but they think that it's really the world at large. They tend to have these delusional, visions of grandeur. Maybe they've made some great strides, which they feel entitles them once again to arrive at this conclusion about themselves. But this facade is very resistive. It's very waterproof to communication and what they might consider criticism to them. So they don't feel that they should take any communication, because you're then considered like talking back, talking, you're reversing the role of, you're reversing the river, the flow of the river here. No, river goes this way. No, they accuse you of something, making you inferior. In other words, no, I am the man. I am the boss. I am the. They've already got a title that they've defined in the relationship, and they've got one defined for you, even though you didn't sign up for that. You're not that. They think you're needy, clingy, too sensitive, when you're just normal. You have boundaries and you expect respect. You expect communication and respect. So it's a whole, like, flipping. The narcissist always is very, how dare you? I mean, you'll get that sort of audacity. Like, they treat others with audacity. Just put this energetic pushing of an emotional boulder onto others. Like, here, you take this negativity. Why don't you? That's what makes me, this and this, because I'm, and they tend to sort of look for this feedback. Again, it comes back to this insatiable need for attention. And oftentimes it's very scary, because they might do something that's like over the top or beyond the boundary. Like, you know what? You don't talk about this in this restaurant like this. This is not appropriate. Like, you can't be so entitled that you think you can just talk loud and use these terms, or, and it's sort of this undercover, just sort of trying to get attention from other tables, whether it's an agreement or, something like that, to get whatever it is. They want to have, like, mini solo acts wherever they go, just mini, hey, as if you're so honored to have a cameo. And the thing is, why they sort of throw off this sort of grandiose is because they are very, very fragile inside, and they're trying to protect really a very fragile ego that for some reason within them is on unsure ground, is on unsecure pavement, as in uneven. They really sort of are very lost and more so fragile, because something within them is wounded, either as a child, as a teenager, an infant, maybe. They went through probably some severe, or I would say intense, or not like the other, or what they perceived as a very sort of emotional engraving event, meaning I've got to, with this other person, like they have an experience of, it created this drive within them, or it created this propensity, or like unbeknownst to them, it caused them to become generated to become the person that they are. It's like a causative factor. Like they might say it's their passion, but they, I feel underneath it all, that facade, which can be really thick, and impenetrable. So a lot of people will spend years trying to help the narcissist release their facade. Like, hey boy, hey guy, isn't that kind of heavy for you? Let me be a good wife and take care of you, and let me, treat you. Or hey girl, isn't that like a little heavy? Let me take care. So it continues where it's this dynamic of the good in you, why wouldn't you help out? Otherwise, it's interpreted as you're this negative person, or you're this insensitive person that you should be so selfish as to have or require even footing or give and take in the way that is level. But with a narcissist, it's always going to be on a hierarchical sort of that they have established in their mind, and that all others sort of fit into the slot. All others sort of fit into the slot. And then you find yourself in a slot, and then you find yourself feeling lost because you did not step into this slot chamber or this position of wanting to be related to, or even being able to know and understand sort of what you were going through while you're in the midst of it. So, that's how this can be a very overwhelming and it can overtake one's life. And so other people who just are like, can't you just get over them? That was like, 5 years ago, like other people on the outside, sometimes they don't understand what it's like to have close encounters, basically, of this kind. Of this kind. Okay. Of this kind, and so once you've sort of been given the cold heart, but with a warm facade, it's very strange. The cold heart with a cold heart with a warm facade. It's very strange, and it becomes this very binary thing. And so we're talking about this, and do I only have this marker? Let's get just into it for a second, because if this entitlement is a facade, meaning it's a mask, equals a mask. Okay. I mean, so what you see, that's just what you see on the outside is not what you get. In fact, I'm going to do this. We can do this on a whiteboard, and I can put it up so you can kind of see. But it's like, if you can realize, and on the book that I'm working on, it's really sort of like a diagram. In other words, like you can see almost like moving pieces, and it's very simple. But the narcissist, they and what I feel very sad is that the narcissist can't ever let that facade go, because they don't really know themselves or really feel a great need to let go of that facade, because to them that's who they are and that's all they know, and it's serving them. So a narcissist does not have a problem with how they are. It's the other people who they end up sabotaging, hurting, throwing under the bus, causing regressive personality traits, causing a whole host of other situations and experiences by nature of this sort of interaction. So in other words, think of it almost as like a chemical that you've been exposed to, and it creates a chemical reaction within you, but unbeknownst to you. So that's sort of like with this new, very painful sort of hurt. What you might just, is sort of you might feel it in your gut. I mean, if you could have a diagram, and if you could please like make where does the hurt feel? You might feel it in your stomach, which is your I am, your self-esteem, which is your value of self. But if that is not expressed and lived, which is not permitted in the narcissist relationship, you're going to have this struggle and feel exploited, meaning taken advantage of, used for all your worth, used until and discarded like an empty container. And then you can usually tell, because then when you might then drive home, or after the relationship, or they've had, you will feel an emptiness, like it's now time for you to get back on your feet. In other words, it takes you down a notch. It takes you down. They're not uplifting. They're not seeing you and valuing you for who and what you are. They tend to sabotage that because of this facade, And so what's sad, I feel, is that deep within there is this wounded child, or wounded subconscious of their identity, that has created this requirement within them, and to allow that to sort of steer the ship and be the ship. And it might get them a lot of places. We see this in a lot of high achieving people, people who, rise to the ranks of the highest of their careers. We see this in people who own their own businesses, who are musicians or movie stars, or, they just expect, because they can, can't a movie star like, hey, we're going to shut down the mall while so-and-so goes shopping, Brad Pitt or Britney Spears, they need to go, or they have, everything delivered to their house. They have these exceptional, experiences that then for them reinforce who they are and why they deserve to be this way. So they're always sort of on the defensive, and they'll put that out there, I would say out front, is sort of, it's the me first, I'm first, and everybody else is sort of meant to follow. And so that can be very draining, especially if you have a voice or a feeling, or kind of some input, or want to do some things, or in the relationship you want it to go a certain place, and you're finding it's not there. Well, you know why it's not there? Because they chemically don't go there, and it's a chemistry of their personality. They don't come to level with certain normal, they're very threatened, I think, by certain normal experiences. Like if it doesn't have a big flash, or certain to them, that's reinforcing of their ego. If it's too, they consider it boring. If or and then they might make other people feel that way. That because they sit there and cringe their eyes at you, and the looks that really hurt. Meaning, they're always challenging you because they refuse to be and accept certain challenges themselves. In other words, it's not right that you do this, and then they have a cover-up, so they can be very deceitful and manipulative. So this main situation of entitlement, I would say, if we can really get into this and understand this, excuse me, in its efficacy for them, and understand why it's resistive to change. So in other words, they're not going to change. The whole characteristic is they're unchangeable, and this can become very unnatural for a lot of people. Meaning, it's okay to change. It's okay to say, hey, we need to tighten the budget. We need to scale back. I got sick. I'm not perfect. I have a hair out of place. Whatever it is that they are threatened by, sort of this, and so they can get very hostile in those situations and bark off quite a bit. So, when they're coming off as entitled, it's unquestioning. So if in an experience, it's, in other words, they don't, there is no other interaction that you can bring to life, even though you are in the relationship. There is no communication error. They have owned the right to something, almost like in a real estate of communication, that they have a gate over. So like you can't get in, like a gated community. You drive up, oh wow, look at that mansion, you can't get in. They're under lock, bolt, and key. Their facade. They live by it. They breathe by it. They might even, earn their life living by it. So the entitlement, meaning, it's, to me, in the real application, it is unquestioned, which means even though it's causing you hurt or pain, or this doesn't seem right, or something seems off, something seems a little askew, imbalanced. Maybe they're not there for specific things where you feel that they should be, like normal, natural, like a birthday or a certain celebration, or they're always running late, or they're kind of acting like, oh my God, it's your birthday, but look at me, catch up with me, won't you? And it's your birthday. Oh my God, it just happens to be, so they'll always, sort of try to trump up, or I would say steal the thunder and outshow. Just sort of, it becomes, they have the right to the room. They have the right to the store. They have the right to you. They have the right to your heart. They have the right to what you say back to them, and what you eat, or where you sleep, or drink, or breathe, or any of your feelings or emotions, down to maybe your very, very DNA. They have the right to that. So Can you imagine if this is your spouse or your parents, and you feel that they have the right to say stop when stop, go when go, speak when speak? I mean, what are you, some kind of what are they trying to groom or train you for? They're trying to groom or train others not to see behind the mask. That's the whole convolution of the personality. So it's all comes full circle. And it's indelible to change, which means you could put this in an antique shop and it's going to be perfect character because it's not going to change. You could go back centuries later and it's still going to have the same show of arms, or it's still going to have the same mask. It's still going to have the same shield. It's still going to have the same apron. Meaning, in the belief that one is inherently deserving of privileges or special treatment. So again, it's something that they are just feel that they are inherently deserving of. So just because of, by virtue of who they are, that they are just born into this different role, this different treatment, this special treatment. And it doesn't go both ways. There is no saloon door. It's the saloon door only goes one way. They enter in as top gun, top chef, top realtor, top, whatever it is. They're top. I mean, there is no ceiling for them, and they can, and then they, will deserve, feel that they deserve this. And oftentimes that'll work for them. It'll get them in places. There's a market for people who are entitled. And that's the crazy thing, is that's why there's a lot of societal reinforcement for entitlement. I mean, just example, and oftentimes people then use these as their mentors, which of course really ends in a severe personal drought for you, because that's not going to lead a meaningful, fulfilling, or sustainable life. For example, just look at, who is out there as sort of the people to admire and look up to. Just, who do we see a lot of images of? So we're just not even talking about their names, but their images. So I don't know, when I look at the news, I generally see a lot of Brett Barker, or whatever that guy's name is, with all the tattoos and never a smile. That guy, Barker, or I don't know, he's a drummer. Okay, that guy. Of course, how bad that I can't remember his name. But that guy and the Kardashians. So their images are in the news a lot. So as if we're deserving attention, and as if we should aspire to. So a lot of people look at them and go, oh, wow, that guy's tattoos, I want to have, or that guy's, whatever, I want to be like. Or same thing with a Kardashian. Look at that, for me too. And they're not even seeing what they're made of. They're not even seeing their own DNA and wanting to recognize it. Hence, plastic surgery, self-body issues, relationship issues. A lot of these people go to Hollywood, plastic surgery, facial, everywhere, manicures. I mean, all this stuff. It's just, it's creating this more sort of bubble and onto itself, which fosters and in them promotes, which is the thing for you to really become aware of in society. So I always remember in freshman year of my college, was it freshman year? Sophomore year, and we're going for about an hour here. We're going to wrap it up. But one of my classes was a study of Gandhi and his experiments with truth. And, he talked about how certain emotions got him really into trouble. So you can almost looking at him saying, yeah, if you ride these emotions, it's going to be trouble. And he lists those out. And a lot of those, what I found in my studies, are those touted as desirable in your society. So for example, having a tan, having a tan for those who are fair-skinned is considered, oh, you're on vacation, it's a luxury, it's a sign of wealth, it's a sign of free time, it's a sign of you get to read or sleep, So then, but yet it causes a lot of health issues. It causes a lot of people to do things and become unproductive and live a vapid or superficial life, But, so oftentimes that can be and not a real important, behavior. So this entitlement then leads to oftentimes the exploitation of people, resources, and it becomes wildly inappropriate, if you could use those two words. I don't even want to use that because that even sounds, sounds desirable. So as we wrap it up, realize, and we can talk more in depth about this because it's this, they have the right to, and really be obscene, in other words, be outlandish, say outlandish things, wear outlandish things, do inappropriate things, and oftentimes it's, what most other people would not do, they find themselves doing and feeling entitled, like, well, of course I'm going to do this. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to maybe cause other people discomfort, meaning the way that they talk to other people. So they can tend to then put others at a discomfort for their own comfort. So when you find this, and then oh, that is so funny. You're right. I'm so, shy about this, or, they might give you this sort of criticism, and then other people then take that as an invitation for communication, and then you're kind of accepting the criticism, and then you come from I own that, you're right, I am, and then it's usually defined by something negative, not as good as stupid, should be guilty, shame, this whole heap. I mean, the whole kit and caboodle, the whole pyramid of negativity should be, basically then is sort of the waste product, if you will. Or oftentimes an outcome of this is it requires this to run. Like if you look at relationships as sort of like it's an energy and a fueled machine, what's fueling our relationship? Like, is it because of appreciation, reverence, love, like humanity, adoration? How do we come together to save, to uplift, to help, so why, oftentimes you might find that coming together in that relationship there was always some sort of something in it that was causing a discomfort. And it's very difficult to know that because there's no open channel oftentimes. You're left to feel that you have to resolve it a lot yourself. And that can be a lot of work. People will try and try again, like they try to analyze and understand, namely so that they don't go through that again. So if you can understand in this little mini series that we're going to wrap up here, that how to identify entitlement and how is it different from just confidence, or because what I want you to understand is when we talk here about the channel, all this is on a spectrum, and there are some very accomplished people who have confidence, knowledge, wherewithal, intelligence, talent, which is within them, but it doesn't mean that they use this to exploit and take advantage of others because they are these things. And so there's a lot to unpack from this entitlement and then the experience. So realize where these subtle biases are. It becomes like a bias that this person has in their outlook of the world. So you can feel that, that they're very sort of resistant to change and that they like it that way. And oftentimes, once again, it's because they don't want to have discussion or they don't want to have to change. That's too difficult for them. They want to get by on something else. So that's why you might feel that there's this real distance, a warm facade and a cold heart, or something that is really uncomfortable and scary to look at because it causes fear to know, then it can also create love to know that you can see that and kind of give that to yourself, which means an absence of fear. If you can stay in that zone, the absence of fear, and kind of get to know a little bit about that, And even though that might become uncomfortable, that's a good discomfort, because it's allowing something more strong. You'll feel that it's coming from a place of reality, a natural authenticity and talent and gift that you have. So in other words, you begin to live out loud. You begin to be experiencing good things. In other words, you're recognized for a good person. You're recognized for your skills that you have. In other words, there's not someone threatened by your talents to try to grind you down so that you can be looking up. Do not fall for the trap of the entitled. This is your buddy. Peace and harmony with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share, please subscribe, and for goodness sake, please donate for more great tools, videos, discussions, and support. Peace out. Have a beautiful day.